Hey, John.
That'll be free tours from that, right? That'll be free tours.
Free tours, can you do anytime? Anytime.
Isabel is here.
Tell you the story of his name, Yolanda.
He did not.
Ben just made the name.
Really?
Yes, you're right.
Nobody has that name. Made up name, means nothing. So I said, so he could have. Instead of Y-A-R-A-N, made it N-A-R-A-Y backwards.
Charles.
It would have been just as.
Yeah. I could have. I like it better. I think it's better. That would be Mary.
It's now one more.
Mary.
Yarn better. Iran's better. Quick question. I made Kim co-host.
Yes,
Who else do I need to?
me.
Craig.
I'm Craig, by the way. I'm only kidding because we introduced each other like 4 times to each
I remember this time.
other. I'm not a memorable guy, personally. I don't know. Or you could. You might say something. So Spencer's. Why isn't that bad?
No, Grace.
It's like 3 billion. You know, they're going all.
We're not muted, right?
It's like 900.
I can't say.
No.
I'm okay.
Why?
We're gonna wait
I
another
heard that. Yeah,
couple of
wait,
minutes. We're just
yeah,
waiting
why?
for another member to hit quorum. Shortly, we'll start
Like
shortly.
someone somewhere lotion thermostat.
You have anything from
Yeah,
Clayton?
that works.
I think there's yours too.
Last time I heard
Is
of
it like
him,
building? Yeah.
Maybe like.
4 or 5 months ago.
It's recent.
Yeah, but it was more me complaining about something to him than him telling me how his life is.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Staggered.
Yeah. How long was he, committee chairman?
I mean, he was
340
committee chair before I
years.
was on the board, so at least 10 years.
Oh, so he was quite a while before he retired. Couldn't take the pressure.
He became chair in a year after he joined, or maybe 2 years after.
Wow.
Yeah. But he was that, he didn't play, he was really good.
Yeah.
City anymore, so
Oh, he left. Penn?
that's why he resigned, yeah, it was in the city. Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Community Board 5, Parks and Public Spaces Committee. My name is Craig Slutsky, and I'm the chair. I want to welcome everybody and hope everybody had a very good February. Tonight we have 3 items on the agenda and then one quick announcement beforehand. Todd is on? No, Todd's not on. The way the meeting's gonna work is we'll have each of the applications or presentations, a couple of our presentations. We will have the applicants discuss it a little bit, talk to us about it. Then the committee will ask questions. At that point, we will allow for the members of the public to ask their questions or make comments, at which time we will go into what's called a business session. During the business session, it's only appropriate for members of the committee to deliberate, unless otherwise deemed by the chair. If we have a vote, if any of these items are voting items, 2 of the items will be voting items tonight. We will take a vote. That will be presented then to the full board that meets on the second Thursday of the month. Please check cb5.org for details. At that point, the board will take a vote on it, and that will become the official position of Community Board 5. One quick announcement, or discussion point. One thing that we've been talking about, and we talk about in a lot of applications, is the use of film and recording, when we have events in public spaces. And we've basically, what we've done is we've taken a position that it is illegal, that you have to have all these postings up, and it's illegal to just randomly take pictures or videos with people in the background. But what I asked the board office to do is do some research for us to get an official position of the city, because the city has never opined or taken a position on this for us. We've taken interpretations of the law, but we've never gotten anything specific from the city. So Marisa, thank you to Marisa, who's in the other room right now. She spoke to various city agencies, the New York City Legal Counsel, SAPO, the Mayor's Office of Media, the Parks Department, and they have all confirmed that there is no actual right to privacy in public spaces. There should be posted notices that that the area that filming is happening. So you can choose to go that way, but you risk your image to be being used, or you can bypass it. But there is no requirement, nor will they recognize any requirement to have waivers done. We can ask our applicants to do that. There is nothing stopping us from doing that. However, we cannot represent to our applicants that it is the law, because it is simply not recognized law by any of those agencies. Now, we have also asked them, if we put something in, if we said no to an application because they didn't put this in, would they recognize that? And the inclination is they would not. They would not deny an application because an applicant refused to comply with us asking for it. So the moral of the story, we can ask, we can request it, and we can take a deny unless, and that's fine, it's taking a position. However, we cannot, with the CB5 nor any community board, cannot represent that it is the law to have these waivers. It just is not, these agencies will not recognize it. And, you know, again, that's Mayor's Office of Media, SAPO, New York City Legal Counsel. Parks Department is still not confirming, but, you know, if the other three agencies are following this interpretation, I have no doubt that the Parks Department will as well. I know, David, you have your hand raised. I'll do that in a second. One thing I neglected to do, and we should do this just because it's good corporate hygiene or good community hygiene. Can we just go around the room just to say for the folks who are on video who we are, and just state your name, just so we all know who's here.
Isabel Marks,
Christopher Nazaro.
Michael K-Back.
John Harris.
Kim McCall,
Craig Slutskin.
Aaron Ford.
Libby Hutton,
And online we have David Akalis. David, you want to wave?
Mhm.
We have Yaron, you want to wave? I think we have Charles Nye, and I think or if you can mute yourself if you're not speaking. From the community board, I think that's who we have right now. We might get some people coming in a little bit. Dave, did you want to make a comment?
Well, just, it's more of a question, I guess, about the signage and the photography without Todd here to represent us.
Yeah.
We're all in the lurch. But yes, you have no expectation of privacy to be photographed. But if those photographs are going to be used to promote a product or a situation, doesn't that change it?
It does, according to the city, it does not. If you're in a public park, you're taking that risk that your picture is used. And I understand the point about Todd. He never said he wasn't coming, so I will have a separate conversation with him, obviously, because I know this is something important to him. I didn't know that he wasn't, you know, he never said that he wasn't coming tonight. John.
Yeah, just clarification, did you say that, the New York City Office of Counsel
Yes. she spoke
opined
up.
on this?
Yes.
Did they get anything in writing?
I can
Because I think.
I can ask her. She
that's
probably
the
got an email.
prevailing
Right.
view,
Yeah.
I think it'd be useful to just get a legal opinion.
I'll double check with Marisa if she got it in writing, if she spoke with them. She's
Yeah.
on the call right now, so I can't interrupt, we can't interrupt her. But it was clear. It was very,
Yeah.
it was very clear.
Yeah, but still
Yeah.
clear, but I wanna know
Understood.
what I would love to see the
Yeah.
language.
Yeah.
To see what exactly the language
Yep.
says.
Yep.
Fine.
Okay. So, that's that. And there is Michael. Okay, so we'll go through the first items that were on the agenda tonight are gonna be the post parade events. We have 6 of them and I think we have most of the parade applicants, tonight online. Just a couple of things just to frame the conversation. So, these events happen right outside Madison Square Park. They don't happen actually in the park. They generally happen on Madison Avenue between some combination of 24th and 26th, and then they wrap around a little bit. Historically, we have reviewed this, the Parks Committee, because this is on a street, has reviewed this in conjunction with TNA, with the TNE committee. So it would normally have a joint committee. Because this was so connected to even though it was not in Madison Square Park, it was so connected to Madison Square Park. Generally, the chair of the Parks Committee ran the process, like Clayton for many years, and then when I took over, I ran the process, but it was a joint committee. Given that we have a couple of people from the T&E committee on this committee, and at this point, I think some of us have been on this committee for so many years, we know the issues. The T&E committee has ceded jurisdiction to us, to the Parks and Public Spaces Committee. It is a public space and we more or less know the issues. So we're taking the lead on this. There are 6 post-parade events. These are not the parades themselves. These are events that happen in that area after the parade. And we have taken the position each year that we're going to review these parades and generally support them, and I'll talk about why we would not support them. However, we've always included a clause that we don't think this is that area, those 2 blocks are the proper place for the parades. The post-parade events. They're great events. I mean, I've been to the events, and it is nothing against any of the applicants. These applicants are fine organizations that do some great things in the community. However, it's very packed. It gets very loud. It definitely has an impact at Madison Square Park. And now it's more residential over there. The residents generally don't love it over there. And again, it's a loud all day event, most of the day event. We have always included language that we do recommend that for the following year, that the city find a better location that has more space, so people can be more spaced out, enjoy it. But that has no bearing on our opinions on the individual events or the merits of their individual application. Our policy has always been, if any of the individual post-parade events get a significant violation, and I'll talk about what a violation would be, for 2 years in a row, we do an auto denial. We have not had an auto denial, to my recollection, in about 4 or 5 years. We haven't had them. And these violations are food preparation is not done appropriately, so the health department has issues, or excessive sound. And listen, there's gonna be sound, there's stages, there's music, everybody's having a great time, we understand that, but there are limits on decibels that the city has put in. So it could be sanitation, if the sanitation is there for 4 days afterwards and you have piles and piles of garbage with rats accumulating. Luckily, we have not had any of these in significant problems in several years. There's always areas, obviously, for improvement, but not significant, no significant issues. What I also do, what we do before is we have a pre-meeting with each of these applicants, just to talk in more detail. What happened last year? How did it go? If there were any issues, how are they going to remediate this year? If the folks at Madison Square Conservancy flagged any issues that they saw, because they're obviously there during the day, if there were issues in the park. So I did meet with the applicants. I think all of them, I think the Muslim Foundation wasn't able to attend, but the other five, I think it was about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, something to that effect. So we did iron out, we spoke in great detail about this, and we can get into any detail that anybody wants today, but we sort of have a pre-meeting just to make sure we're a little bit focused. Similar to, for those of you who are on SLAP, you have pre-meetings with applicants. Landmarks, I think, does the same thing. You have pre-meetings with applicants just to make sure that we're all focused at the meeting today. Any questions before I proceed? Because I know I spoke a lot. Aaron.
So I've been doing this a couple times, but
Yeah.
can you remind me why, like the other parades that go historically down Fifth Avenue don't wind up queuing in Madison Square Park? What's different about these events and why these end in Madison Square Park versus the other celebrations that we have that traditionally go to Fifth Avenue?
I don't know about the parades and where they start and finish. I don't know how, I suspect these parades are the ones that apply to be in that area, I think. And maybe Stephanie, if you wanted, Stephanie from Madison Square Park, if you know this better than I do, please jump in. But they apply, these organizations apply for that permit for those 2 or 3 blocks to close it. So the parade is designed to end over there, to feed into those locations. I don't know that any other, like, I don't know, like the Israeli Day, the Israeli Day Parade. I don't know if they have a post-parade event.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't think they do.
This is Stephanie from Madison Square Park speaking. Yeah, historically, the reason to my knowledge, I don't know why the Fifth Avenue parades, including ones like I know in the past Disability Pride Parade and also Pride Parade have kicked off at Madison Square Park, but these applicants tonight are specifically because they have a festival area adjacent to Madison Square Park. So that's historically why we've always kind of looked at these applications versus the others.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're gonna go one by one. It should actually, hopefully we can run through this fairly quickly. And when I call you out, for the applicant, if you could just, unmute yourself and say hello. We'll start off, and we'll go in order with the Persian Parade Foundation, which is Sunday, April 21st.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Kambiz Mofrat.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
I mentioned to him when we had our pre-meeting. I think he's been doing this since before I was on the committee. So it's like seeing a good friend, an old friend every year.
Absolutely.
Seeing you. So it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, I appreciate all of the support.
So there's no change on his route. Correct me if I'm incorrect. There's no change in the route. Trash was minimal last year. The collective effort of everybody, the patrons, Madison Square Park folks, organizers, cleaning was a breeze. Last year there was Chuck Schumer came, made a nice speech in between music and dancing. Everybody seemed to enjoy it. Music might have been loud a little bit here and there, but not terrible. And no flyers were distributed. The parade didn't use any confetti. So I think in general, everybody was very happy with your team last year. So thank you for that. I know you had said last week or 2 weeks ago, you were going to try to change the route a little bit, but you were probably, I suspected that SAPO said no.
No,
Is
I
that-
didn't. No, I didn't have a chance. Unfortunately,
Okay.
I was traveling, but I would reach out to them. Again, as I said, if they do, it's fine. If they don't, it's fine. It just more was a safety issues. I would keep you posted of any of those conversations.
Yeah, and the route is not, it's just for the members of the committee, it's not significantly off. There may be a block east or west at the end of the filter. Does anybody have any questions on the Persian parade, on the Persian after party? Okay, the next one is the Sikh Cultural Society, which is Saturday, April 27th. Are you here? I think the Sikh organization here. Okay, they were here. They did speak at the pre-meeting, so I'm comfortable with that. Last year it rained, unfortunately. So it wasn't as huge of a crowd. The crowd was fairly small. Most people were hanging under a tent, unfortunately. The cleanup crew, we didn't really see them. The Madison folks didn't see them last year, but litter in the park wasn't really low. It was fairly low. There was a little bit of litter in the front, but we've spoken about them. They will work on their sanitation, project, the sanitation group this year, to, make that a little bit better. I know they're not here. It's unfortunate, but does anybody have any questions? And perhaps either me or Stephanie could answer for the Sikhs.
Which group is the Saturday, the 27th?
Saturday 27th is the Sikh Cultural Society, SIKH. Okay. The third are the Philippine Independence Day Council. Are you
Hi, we're
here?
all here. We're all here. There's a few of us, Nora Villeros and
Yep.
Antero Martinez here also, and I think the president, Armand David, is also here.
So, as I told him on their call last week, historically, the Philippine Day Parade has been the gold star. They've always done everything very, very well. Last year, they had a lot of people because they were celebrating 75 years last year.
125.
125, sorry, their 125th anniversary. So, again, congratulations on achieving that.
Date for this one?
No, last year was 125. This will be 126.
Yes.
Last year was their 120. They had a lot of.
The date
Oh,
of
the date?
the.
Sorry, is June 2nd, Sunday, June 2nd.
Sunday.
Okay. We did speak about, there's no change in their route. We did speak last week about getting the porta potties. They had porta potties on site. They were on a little bit later. They were removed in the afternoon, but they will be removed that Monday morning. We talked about that. There will be no changes to as I said, no changes to the route. There were some issues, and we talked about this in the meeting last week, that some members of the event hung flags on the Farragut Monument in the park. They did remove it when asked, and that's fine. That is a no-no. We can't be hanging up things in the park. So we'll just ask you not to do that this year and just be mindful of that. It was a one-time thing, and my understanding is, again, once it was identified, folks from your organization did remove them. So I thank you for that, but just be cognizant of that. And that's it on the Philippine event. Does anybody have any questions for the Philippine event? And by the way, the applicants, if you have anything to add, feel free to add if you would like.
We're celebrating Independence Day?
It's the Philippine Independence Day Parade. That's what they call it. So this is their 126th anniversary of being independent nation. Okay, so we don't do Pride. Okay, the India Day Parade. Yes, the Federation of Indian Association, India Day Parade, that's August 20th.
Is that a Sunday?
Sorry, no, not August, sorry, Sunday, August 18th. Last year was the 20th. Sunday, August 18th. Are you here from the Indian Day Parade? I thought I saw him. Okay, I will check with him. Indians, there were no changes. There was minimal litter. There was no issues last year. Minimal litter left behind. Garbage trucks took everything out behind the stage. No issue with music. So there were no issues with the Indian Day Parade last year. Number 5 is the Pakistan Day Festival. That's Sunday, August 25th, and that, Michael, is the Pakistan Day Festival. Again, last year, not too much in terms of overflow of attendees into the park, so there was minimal disruption to the park. There was minimal litter inside the park. There was some litter left outside the park, on the road. We did, sorry, they're little on the curb and on the sidewalk. Are the folks from the Pakistan Day Parade? I'm sorry, are you here?
Yes, I'm Mohammed Jan from Pakistan Day Parade.
Hi. Yes, and you were not able to attend last week, sorry.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I was
No,
actually,
that's okay.
you
That's okay. No excuses necessary. It's fine. So last year, there was a lot of litter left on Madison Avenue, on the sidewalk, on the curb line, that was reported. You weren't issued, and my understanding is you were not issued a violation by the Department of Sanitation, but nonetheless, it was an issue that people did note. What would you be able to do this year in terms of your sanitation plan?
what we do like every year, because I don't know if there was something left, because I'm the one with the team, we left at the end.
Yeah,
And that time we have make sure that we pick up anything on the sidewalk, and when they clear everything and the sanitation guys, they told us that everything is fine,
okay.
then we left. So
So what,
just be more.
what I would, yeah, so what I would recommend, and I think this might be helpful, is I think the sanitation department, they give you a piece of paper that says you're all clear, if I remember correctly. So they
Yes,
give you
they-
some. So what I would do is I would just send us a copy. You have Kim's email. Send us a copy of that, so we have it on, not this Kim
Mhm.
Rodney. Just so we have that for the records. I also would highly recommend that you take pictures. You may have done this already. You take pictures with your phone, just in case. So if somebody says there's garbage all over, you have pictures and say, look, we cleaned up. I think that would be helpful also. But the only thing we can ask is that you just be more mindful of it this year. But, in general, you guys have done a pretty good job of that.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much. We will do as you said.
Yeah, great. Any questions for the folks from the Pakistan Day Parade? Okay. The last one is the Muslim Foundation of America, Sunday, September 29th. Are you here I think the Muslims said they may not.
No, we're here.
Oh, you are here,
Good evening,
okay.
everyone.
So last year you had absolutely no issues. You guys were perfect. Now, of course, you didn't have your parade last year. It had to be
That's
canceled.
right.
So
Yeah,
so if there were any issues, I would have been quite surprised. But in general, I think 2 years ago, I don't know, the last time we had the parade, I think is somebody's hand up? I can't see I can't see what that says. Sorry, Mike. Is that
Paul Evans.
Paul Evans? Okay, that's a member of the public. We'll come back to members of the public in a moment. Mr. Evans, we'll go to members of the public in a little bit. We didn't have issues. I don't believe the last time you had the parade, and I think it's a similar route as the last time you had the parade, and what you expected to do last year. And just so you know, for the benefit of the committee, the parade last year, the event was canceled for their own logistical reasons. It was not canceled for anything that they did wrong. It was not anything bad. It was, they had their own internal decision to cancel the parade. Nothing should be read into it that they didn't have it.
thank you. Yes,
And route is the same as last year, correct?
yes, it is.
As it was supposed to be last year. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, are there any questions for the Muslim parade folks?
Well, I guess it's just in the document. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if this is for them or for you, but it says there's a conflicting event.
Stephanie, is there another event on September 29th?
I'll check real quick. Hold on.
Okay. Okay. While we're waiting for Stephanie, if there's no other, I'm gonna go to the public, but I'm gonna start off with Kurt Kavanaugh from the Flatiron Bid to see if he wants to comment, and then I'll get to you, Mr. Evans. Kurt, you should be able to speak, and welcome back to CP5.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I think
And
there
just-
may be,
Sorry,
can you hear me?
Kurt, just for the benefit of some of the newer members of the committee,
Oh, sure.
could you just tell us who you are?
Oh, sure. Sorry about that. Kurt Kavanaugh, Vice President of Planning with the Flatiron Nomad Partnership.
Great.
It
Great.
appears there may be a conflict on the 29th of September with the epilepsy walk. That maybe was flagged in your system.
Okay, do you know where the epileptic, that doesn't come through us, do you know where that's gonna be?
It's a date conflict, but not a location conflict, so it should be okay.
Okay, yeah, it's not, I mean, you know where the events are. To your
Yeah.
knowledge, it's not gonna be on Madison Avenue, right? I mean, they're not
No,
gonna do
I don't think it is, but I think that's why it's flagged in your system.
Okay, thank you, Kurt.
Yeah. All I wanted to say tonight, besides thank you all for hosting this and for all the applicants for appearing tonight, was one bit of feedback we received from some of our hospitality partners, namely hotels along and near Madison Avenue, Park Avenue South, is that Sunday events are more impactful than Saturday events. And where possible to consider Saturday dates. I understand that Sundays are more impactful for usually for guests leaving and trying to get out of the city to go to the airports. So just wanted to flag that for future consideration and agree that with you all at CB5 that we have for a long time have hosted and happily host so many parades and celebrations on Madison Avenue, but maybe there are more appropriate spaces for some of the larger events to consider going forward.
Yep. Thank you, Kurt.
Yep. Thank you all.
Okay. And then Paul Evans, you should be able to unmute yourself. Thank you, Stephanie. Paul, Mr. Evans, are you unmuted? You should be able to speak to that by now.
Is that better?
Yep.
Is that better? Great.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm from Parks and Recreation. And no, I just wanted to tell all of the groups, I haven't seen any parks permits for your events. So if they're doing any staging that's going to be on the sidewalk of Madison Square Park, that is going to require a permit. So a few of them came in very late last year. I hope that they will just be very mindful and get them in as quickly as possible so we can have conversation about what their setup is going to be. Very often it may be staging for porta potties, it may be staging for any kind of trash removal location, bins, etc. But that still will require a permit, so they should get them in.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Paul. Yeah, definitely get that in, especially those of you who are having events in April. It's not that far away. It's you'll turn around and it'll be here. So that would be great if you can get that in. Okay, so I will bring this into before I go on, are there any comments or anything that any of the applicants wish to add? We'll go back to business session in a moment, Charles. Charles, is there anything that any of the members of the applicants want to add that?
Yeah, I have a question for Paul. The Persian Parade had already had a request for permit or certain documentation that we have to do, including insurance. For us, I'm not necessarily aware when you're talking about porta potties, what other permission we need. I would reach out to your office and get some guidance. But I'm a little bit confused.
Paul, do you want to put your contact information in the chat?
Certainly, I can do that. Yes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
And each of you can contact Paul, and I'm sure he'll guide you through what you need to do.
That's fine. Thank you.
Or get you who you need to. Okay, so we'll go to a business session. Charles, did you want to comment? I think I saw your hand up before.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. Great.
Oh, good. Hi, everyone. Charles Nye here. So, yeah, I go to these parades every year. I just want to say that I think and this is just a speculation assumption, but I would imagine the significance of Madison Avenue is because Little India is right there, Murray Hill, Lexington Avenue, and I would imagine, there's some link there because, obviously people from India, you have Sikhs and Muslims and Hindus and everyone. So I would imagine there's a cultural significance of Madison Avenue being the spot for these parades. I was going to quickly say that I believe they've been doing a really good job, really good with letting pedestrians pass across Madison Avenue. As you know, Whole Foods is there, and they've been really good with that. And if there is garbage around, I would imagine probably from some of the parades have a lot of leaflets they hand out, and I think a lot of that could be from that. But from my experience with the parades, when I've had people with me, they commented how at the end of the parade there is a lot of cleanup. There has been a lot of garbage removal. So I have had friends witness that when we've left the end of the parade. And I was going to say congratulations to the Indian Day Parade, Independence Day Parade. Last year they had Mayor Adams attend, which was really cool. So that was I think a really big thing. And yeah, just really enjoy the parades. I think it brings a lot to Madison Avenue. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Charles. So, Paul, we're actually in business session now. So, if you have information on something you can, do you want to provide that information? You know, I
Yes,
want to let the
chat is-
applicants know. Go ahead.
Can you
Go
hear
ahead,
me?
Paul.
Because, yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
the chat is disabled, so I can't type in
Oh.
my information.
Okay.
Say it slow.
Michael. Could you go, do you know how to disable enable the chat? Let's see if. I think if you go into settings, I'm not, or transfer host to me. We're gonna try to undo it so that you can write it in. Well,
Thank you.
yeah, you can transfer.
It says you are, photos.
Yeah, make me the host.
Hmm.
And then I can change that setting. I should be able to. Okay, thanks. So let's see if I can read. Okay, it's unfortunately not letting me do that, but actually, if you can,
I can type in Paul's email if that's okay with
Yeah.
you, Paul.
if you can type
Certainly.
it in or type it to me and I can type it to everybody else. It's there. I think you can type it to the public. That might be why.
Do I need to recite it for you?
I've
No, we
got it
got
typed
it.
in.
Okay, great. That's fine.
Yeah, and I think all of the applicants are able to see it now. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, other comments from the committee? Michael.
I just have one, which is looking at some of the dates, and looking ahead. We're gonna be in the midst of probably a very heated political election, and I would just encourage that all the events remain celebratory and stay away from being political in nature.
I think that's good advice. Any other comments? Okay, so we have these 6 applications. You want to make a motion?
Sure, motion to approve the.
Second.
Okay, let's take it to a vote.
Okay. Live here, okay, Craig?
Yes.
And yes, David Akelis?
Yes,
And, Aaron?
Yes.
John? Libby?
Yes.
Michael Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Christopher?
Yes.
And Michael Southwood.
Yes.
You're on and Charles can vote.
Oh, sorry, skipped right over you guys. You're on?
Yes.
And Charles?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, well, good luck to all of you. I'm sure I'll be at least one or two. I'll try to make it to as many as I can. They're always great events, so we wish you luck. And if anything changes on the parade routes or anything like that, please let us know. We'll coordinate with Staple as well. But sometimes, hearing it from you is the fastest way we hear from it. But we thank you for coming and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
So we'll go, the next item, since we're on Madison Square Park, we'll stay with that, is the Party in the Park update from Stephanie. This is held on April 2nd on the Oval Lawn. And as a reminder, this is not a voting issue because we actually already approved it when we did the annual roster of events. However, the folks at Madison Square Park, in their usual spirit of cooperation, wanted to give us an update. They're changing a couple of things from last year. If we have any comments or thoughts on it, we have an opportunity to speak about it. If we hate everything, I don't think we will. We can take a vote on it if we can, if we want, we're able to do so. But hopefully, Stephanie won't let us get to that point. So I have full faith in you, Stephanie.
Thanks, I appreciate it. So just to really quickly talk about some updates to this event. Since I've been here 9 years, we've been doing this event since at least 2015. Party in the Park is the biggest fundraiser for Madison Square Park every single year. And this year it's projected to bring in about $1 million, which is roughly between, I want to say, 18 to 20% of our operating budget. So we really do rely on this fundraiser to provide essential services for Madison Square Park. This year, the honorees are specifically Danny Meyer, who co-founded Madison Square Park Conservancy over 20 years ago. He was also the founder of Shake Shack and Union Square Hospitality Group. We will also be honoring Lyndon B. Miller. Some of you may know her as a fantastic landscape designer. She actually did the conservatory garden in Central Park, and what a lot of people don't realize is that she was integral to designing the way Madison Square Park looks today. She actually was the one who built our gardens in 2010. So we'll be honoring those two individuals for their service and commitment to Madison Square Park on April 2nd, which is a Tuesday. It's a very similar event to every single year. The format's pretty much the same. It's a cocktail event, and then it's followed by a gala dinner. So just to give you a sense of what this event looks like, there is a tent structure that is built onto the lawn, and also a cocktail tent over our fountain area. The difference between this year and last year is that last year the cocktail tent was over the reflecting pool, which was the northern end of the park. This year it's returning to the fountain area, the southern end of the park, and that was specifically because of the construction that we were doing for about a year in the park last year and the year previous. So basically it's, again, cocktails. We have digital auctions / silent auctions. We'll have speeches for the honorees. We'll do 2 live auction items, a dinner, and then most likely a final address. In terms of sanitation, we are working with Common Ground Compost, which we always work with at every single one of our events. And so what they do is they have a team that will actually sort through the organic matter and kind of decide it into organic, recyclable, and landfill based. So we will have some dumpsters provided by Avid Waste Systems, and Avid Waste Systems will be taking the landfill trash. Sound is pretty much the same as it has always been for every year. It's very minimal in terms of just ambient music at the cocktail area and inside the tent. Historically, I've never heard it outside of the park. So if I'm walking over by TD Bank, it doesn't even register. But just to give you a sense of it, there's 4 kind of speakers within the cocktail tent area and about 6 speakers in the main tent area, specifically for the speeches and addresses and ambient music. So to talk a little bit about the layout, I know it looks overwhelming on this, so please bear with me. But while we do the kind of closures for this area, we'll be mindful of pedestrian traffic throughout the entire build of this event. Most of the structures will be on the oval lawn. And one thing that we always make sure to work with Stanford Tents, who has been doing this event with us and all of our fundraising events, is that we always make sure that there's enough clearance where we're not damaging tree roots or tree canopies. So that's something we always keep in mind whenever we do a tenting structure. So like I mentioned, the cocktail tent will be located on the southern end of the park, as it has been for the previous years, with the exception of 2022. In regards to kind of compaction on the lawn, in-house, we have a aerator. Our horticulture team, which is 3 people strong, will be doing some aerating post-event. They'll also do some overseeding. And generally, anytime we have this event, actually any time of the year, even if we didn't do this event, we always reseed the lawns in April. So the lawns are closed to the public in the month of April, and then they reopen generally in May to kind of give the turf some time to establish roots and everything like that, and then last a little bit longer through the summer. So nothing has really changed in regards of like pre-production or post-production for this event. To talk just about closures, we do close off some pathways as we load in tent materials. We try not to close off too many pathways at any given time. So as we bring in a truck that'll come in at 8 a.m., we'll only close off that pathway that the truck is installing those items. So you might see here on this map many barricades. I just want to reiterate, not all of this will be present for the full, 8-day time frame. It'll be at time piecemeal. So generally they start with the oval lawn tent first, which is the biggest structure. And then generally on the weekend, usually Saturday or Sunday, that's when they build the cocktail tent structure. So probably the most impactful part will be the cocktail tent on Saturday or Sunday. But as soon as that's open and they've established kind of a structural body for it, those pathways do open up in the evening, so you can still walk through that space. If you're walking your dog at night to the dog run, if you're going to the hotel, you'll still be able to travel through that space as long as it's not actively under construction. The night that it will all kind of close down for about 1 to 2 days is on April 1st. Then all those barricades, as you see it on that map, will kind of exist into place. All of the structural components will be in there. They'll be doing the flooring, installing the lighting, the sound, and everything like that for that event. And then on April 2nd is when we have our catering and rentals come on site, and then we have the event itself. Stanford Tents is really good at breaking down this event. I've seen it done in basically 2 days, maximum of 3. So we anticipate as soon as the event is over on April 3rd, 8 a.m. in the morning, they'll be here taking down the cocktail tent. That usually gets taken down very quickly within a couple of hours, and then they start working on the overall tent. And then generally by day 2, they're gone, and it's like they were never here. So that's this event in a nutshell. Again, not much has changed. It is one of our largest fundraisers to support the park a lot, and we are happy to acknowledge that the contributions of our 2 honorees to Madison Square Park and making the Conservancy and the park it is today. So I'm happy to take any questions at this point.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any questions for Stephanie?
Yes.
Michael?
I was wondering if Stephanie was aware and Daniel Feinstein was aware that on this Sunday, I will be doing my tour, the free Flatiron District tour. And as usual, let me extend my invitation to the 2 of you. And if you're not happy, I'll give you double your money back for the free tour.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll pass it along to Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are wonderful at product placement. You know,
The question?
there's nobody better than you. Thank you for that, though, and it's.
That goes to everybody here, by the way.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments for Stephanie? Any member of the public that wishes to comment or ask any questions? We do have a few people on from the public. Okay. Hearing none. Too bad we will not have to do a resolution about you, Stephanie. I'm sorry.
Save it from one of the marketing events. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for letting me present.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for your help on the post parade events as well. Appreciate it.
Have a good night,
Always
everyone.
good to see you. Thanks. Okay, the final item on the agenda is an update from our friends at the Union Square Park. They have an infrastructure repair proposal. It goes through capital funding through the city. As a reminder, with Union Square, as with Bryant Park and Madison Square Park, all their operating needs are met by fundraising and events that they do in the park. However, capital needs are frequently done through the city, and they have to and they are basically on the whims of the city council and the mayor and various other parties within the city to get that approved. They have come to us to specifically to ask about a specific proposal, which they're going to talk about. This is part of their visioning, their new visioning project, which I'm sure they will talk about. And I'm going to promote Josh. So, and I promoted Josh. Is there anybody else? I don't remember. Is there anybody else that should be?
It'll just be me.
Okay, this is up to Josh if he wants to go up. Just one clarification on the first vote. Encore was in the attendees. I didn't promote him, so he's a yes.
Okay,
So you can note him as a yes. But Encore is in the meeting tonight. So Ed is going to make the presentation. Just remember that what they're doing is a specific proposal for this specific funds. I know we want a lot of things from the park, and we can talk about that as well. But in terms of how we want to proceed here, what we're looking at tonight is this specific proposal. We can talk about other things tonight. That's okay. But what we're doing is we're going to opine upon whether or not we wish to support this specific proposal. So Ed, if you want to start, and if you want to introduce yourself, and I guess introduce Josh as well, just since he's here anyway, that would be great.
Thank you, Craig, and members of the CV5 Public Space Committee. I am Ed Janoff. I'm the Deputy Director and Chief Strategy Officer at Union Square Partnership, the bid at 14th Street and around Union Square Park, and joined with me today by Josh Thompson, who is our Associate Director of Special Projects. And so just a point of clarification, We are here requesting the community board's expressed support in what would be a Parks Department capital project. So it's not a Union Square Partnership project. And like you said, when it comes to capital, we advocate for city allocations to agencies to fund capital projects, whether it's parks or DOT or DEP or whatever. So we're essentially coming here as an advocate for Union Square Park tonight. I'll walk you through that presentation. I'll also mention that we would be planning to come back probably next month with an update on plans for programming in the park for this year. But at any time, we're happy to talk about anything relating to the bid or the neighborhood or the park. So if I may,
Cheers.
Can everybody see that? Great. So I'll just set us up by saying that, yes, in 2021, we released a vision plan for the park and the greater neighborhood that was really meant to try to catalyze investment in the renovation of the spaces around Union Square Park and design the streets in a way that are more reflective of the way the neighborhood is used today. And that vision plan centers on really three key goals or initiatives. One is modernizing Union Square Park. It's a space that hasn't really seen any kind of master plan in 40 years and hasn't had a significant renovation and a capital renovation in about 15 years. A 14th Street Boulevard that is kind of takes what's been done in temporary materials and realizes it in permanent materials as a really world-class crosstown transit way. And then updated infrastructure and accessibility and better amenities throughout the neighborhood and throughout the streetscape. And so that was released in 2021, and then we did about a year of outreach where we heard a lot of feedback, through various forums and meetings and presenting to the community boards, et cetera. So we have a long list of feedback and are in the process right now of advocating at the city, state, and federal level for large-scale funding to implement this vision plan. It's a very, very broad, wide-ranging, has a price tag in the hundreds of millions of dollars. We've seen this administration make large allocations to public spaces in the commercial core. That's part of the New York strategy for district recovery. And so, you've seen allocations to Flatiron, to Chinatown, to downtown Brooklyn. And so, we're hopeful that this could be a big city project, but regardless of whether or not this gets built all in one swoop, we know that this is a long kind of multi-decade process. And so we've been doing the work in the last 2 years of advancing smaller components of this plan so that it's not, some of the really urgent upgrades aren't waiting for, a bigger project, so that things keep moving and we have momentum in the things that are either low-hanging fruit or most urgent. And part of that includes last year, we successfully advocated for an allocation of, I think, roughly $6 million to street lighting. So both the Councilwoman Rivera and the council in general allocated funding that was for upgraded street lighting on 14th Street. That funding is with DOT right now. I don't have a timeline on that, but that was one of the highest priority items we heard from our constituents was a deficiency in lighting along that corridor. So there are other initiatives that are being advanced on different timelines. And the one I'm here to talk about tonight specifically is the park infrastructure and the interior of Union Square Park. And we're raising this because we believe this is now really the highest priority capital need for our little microcosm of 14th Street and Union Square. The park broadly, I think, has a lot of design features that are outdated. You probably wouldn't design a park exactly like this today. Some of the tall plantings that obscure sight lines, the desire lines don't necessarily honor where pedestrians want to go. I think it's safe to say that although the park is very beloved and works very well for everybody, there are things that might be designed a little bit differently. But moreover, the problem is that the a lot of the infrastructure around the perimeter of the park is very provisional. There's been a lot of temporary upgrades over the last 10 or 15 years. So you're looking at DOT blocks, and you're looking at medians that are crumbling. We all know about the trash issue. But most importantly to us is that we're really seeing very serious infrastructure failures on the interior of the park. So we're at a point right now where we usually get a water main or sewer break about once or twice a year. And so that's a moment where we have to shut down all the water in the park. So you will lose water at the dog run and at the fountains, and then the water will be going somewhere. We're on top of the fourth busiest subway station in the city. At this point, we have not had a major leak in the subway station, but what we're getting is sinkholes, right? That's usually a drainage failure. So a drain pipe will break somewhere, and then when it rains, that will wash out fill from underneath. And we won't know that it's happening until some part of the park collapses, and we had to close a seating area for a couple of years. And so it's whack-a-mole. We do the best we can with the funding that we have to try to address these breaks when they happen. The Parks Department, when they have crews available, will send people to try to, repair sections of pipe at a time. But it's just an ongoing issue. And then we also have drainage issues that are sort of throughout the park, on the pathways, and in the lawn. And last year, when we lost the water system in the month of August, we lost a lot of plant material because hand watering just could not keep up with the heat and the dry conditions. So that's really, like, I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but the drainage and water issue, and these are 40-plus-year-old pipes. I keep saying this to all elected officials. I would like to see this fixed before a pipe breaks over the subway station and shuts down, a subway line. I don't want to be embarrassed by that kind of a problem because we didn't fix it, when we had the chance. So it was about, I don't know if I've got the original date on this. I think 5 years ago, in 2019. This is a Parks Department estimate and proposal that they have updated since 2019, when they were able to secure a council allocation in an out year capital funding. At the time, the estimate, I believe, was like six-ish million. But that, I don't know exactly how the city budget works. Sometimes it can be a little bit complicated. So they secured a commitment for an out year, and that commitment was later withdrawn, and that money was reallocated to other things. I don't know exactly the behind the scenes how that works, but what I know is that right now there is no funding. There's a zero funding for this capital project. So we're in the process right now with the Parks Department, Manhattan Borough Office, of going around to our council member, borough president, the Council Parks Committee, the council, the chair's offices, and asking them, how can we get to this figure? It's a lot of money, and it's not something that could be any one, elected official's allocation. It needs to come from the speaker pot and possibly also from the city. So, with that and the conversations that we've had with the borough president and with Councilmember Rivera and other council members, and, as we plan to go testify at the budget hearings, they say it would be helpful to know that the community board supports this project. So I said, we will go to the community board and present this and ask them for a letter or a resolution, or what's appropriate, if you feel so motivated, to provide us with some documentation of the committee's support for this project. The project as scoped by the Parks Department here, you can see that when you look at the estimate, the actual replacing of the water lines is not particularly an expensive piece of this. But in order to do that, all the water and sewer lines are under all of the pathways. So they run directly under the pathways alongside of them, and then they crisscross the lawn in every direction. So once you're digging up all the paving, it only makes sense to put it back with new paving, so that you don't put back old paving that's probably going to need to be replaced in a few years anyway, because you're still dealing with 30 or 40-year-old paving. So you put back new paving, and then once you're doing a paving contract, you might as well loop in other paving that you also need to get an economy of scale. So the Parks Department has added the South Plaza to that scope. the South Plaza steps and some of the pavers, which are a unique design, are becoming uneven, and that may also be related to some of the sinkhole issues and drainage issues. So they've ganged that all together into this one capital project. There is not necessarily a proposed redesign of the park as part of this capital project. This would be money that would be allocated to the Parks Department. So we are advocating for the City Council and elected officials to allocate discretionary capital funding, or I guess just capital funding, to the Parks Department for the Parks Department to run a capital project. I assume that this would go to their capital division that's located in Olmsted Center in Queens, and then they would hire probably a design team, and then they might come back with some kind of a design process. So if there were to be any changes to the design, that would be its own process run to the Parks Department. But at this point, I'm not aware of anything that they're contemplating. Although if they did hire a design contract, that would be an opportunity to explore anything that anybody would want to see differently, and that would go through the normal Parks Department process. So I'll stop there, and we are requesting your support for this funding allocation.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your presentation. Are there any before we go to the comments? Are there any questions for Ed? Libby.
I have a question about how we talked about economy of scale and like the paving with including the South Plaza. In the vision plan, it was discussed pretty extensively, the west side of the Union Square West, and the different types of paving, I guess, like materials used, and like the cohesiveness of that was like a pretty big talking point. I was wondering if, because just from an economy of scale standpoint, this isn't going to be included in that.
You can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing is that this project that you see here was scoped prior to the release of the vision plan. So this is the same scope as in 2019. But we really felt like it would be appropriate to stop. We're already at a number here at 8.4 million that is causing some folks to balk. It needs to be, they're going to need to figure out how they can, where they can get the money from, and how they were probably, I would guess that they would probably phase it over a couple of years. I don't know if we're going to get this all in this year, but again, we're looking for, an allocation and a commitment. I don't think we're in a position to expand the scope of request of this project out to there. And then the other issue is then technically the Union Square West is right of way, so it's DOT property. So you would involve another agency. So it's complicated for me to explain. It's complicated for me to explain to my own board and to my staff that we are making requests on multiple levels at the same time. And so we do have a bigger effort to try to advocate for funding for what I might call the whole enchilada. But this part really is what we feel like is the most urgent, and what we're trying to explain to the council we think is really kind of could be a dire situation.
Yeah, your pictures of the flooding, actually, this is more of a comment than a question. Sorry, Greg. Your pictures of the flooding around the flagpole are significantly lower levels of flooding than my own photos from multiple events. So I feel like this even understates that flooding issue.
We have a lot more photos.
Yeah, no, just like
you should send those photos
Yeah.
to Ed. Ed, you should use her photos in your presentation, not yours.
Yeah.
You know what? If you have better photos of poor conditions, please send us.
More
We can
dire,
include those
yeah.
because we do have a series of meetings in the next 6 weeks while it's budget season with the various folks on the Parks Committee and the Council Committee.
Yeah, the worse photos we have, the better.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
thinking.
I would send it to him.
Very dire.
Do you have any follow-up? Any more follow-up?
Not on this.
Okay. Charles.
Hi, Charles Nye here. So I was wondering, you mentioned about pipes that could burst and obviously replacing them. One of my questions is, when you replace the pipes, do you know what type of material you'll be using? For example, with the pipes, the new pipes have like a 10-year or 20-year or 30-year lifespan or anything like that. And I was wondering also, you mentioned in your presentation about accessibility, but I wasn't too sure what you meant by that, if you were talking about improving accessibility for park goers who have disabilities to navigate the space better. For example, there is some steps in part of the park where there's no tactile warning strips, for example. And I think I mentioned previously before about how it's difficult for a blind person on their own to navigate around the park because there's not many elements to for the cane to know what part of the park they're in. So I was wondering, is it possible to have a disability consultant also as part of the budget, to use the services of a disability consultant? Because Mr. Harris, the president of the Times Square Alliance, he's hired a disability consultant and even is arranging a working group to try to improve accessibility for people with disabilities navigating the Times Square plazas. So I was just wondering if that's something that could be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles, for that. So I believe at the beginning I referenced the Union Square Vision Plan, which again is the bigger kind of longer term vision for the neighborhood, which is to improve accessibility throughout the perimeter of Union Square Park, the streets, and down and along 14th Street. And then, so I don't have any specific proposals for that here other than what is already included in the vision plan, which is sort of pre-conceptual work. It's not really a proposed design. It's more of an idea. When it comes to this particular project, which again is just the interior of the park, the pathways, and the water and sewer utilities, to my understanding, everything that was scoped in the estimate would be park standard. So I think there's a degree to which this would be bringing some things up to park standard. I know that the Parks Capital Design Division does have an in-house accessibility expert on their capital design team. And so they have a unit that has to review all projects for compliance and then also for in excess of minimum standards for accessibility. So I don't really have a design yet, right? So I cannot tell you what the pavers will be, what the tactile warnings will be, only to say that they will, their intention would be to reconstruct the areas that were in the drawing, which I'm happy to bring up again. So the areas that are shown in green, they would bring up to park standard in the areas where they're deficient, and they would bring them to compliance in the areas where they're not in compliance. I think some of the things that, the conversations that we've had with the Parks Department are about last year or last spring, we came to the, I think we came to the committee here with a proposal for potentially putting pathways that would lead to the center of the lawn. Ultimately, that the Parks Department did not approve that proposal. It was a proposal for like a crushed gravel pathway. But the history of the park was that it had pathways that kind of X'd across the middle of the lawn. And I think there would be some interest if there was enough funding in the scope in exploring ways to make access to the monument in the center of the lawn ADA accessible. Right now it's just dirt and grass. But again, that's not here in the scope, so I cannot speak to whether or not that would ultimately be part of the design. So when it comes to the actual like ramps and pavers and detectable warnings and features, that would have to wait until it is a funded capital project and the design process initiates. And I'm not sure if the Parks Department has ADA consultants or disability consultants as part of their standard capital projects. So I think for a project of this size, they would probably do it in-house. But as you said, that Times Square has used some of their resources to try to bring that expertise in from outside. And that's certainly something that we'd be happy to explore. Sometimes we might be able to lend some expertise in a way that, that might be outside of a city contract. So we're happy to look at that as well.
Yes, and about the pipes. Sorry, I apologize.
No, go ahead, Charles.
The pipes.
the new pipes that will be replacing the old ones, that could burst, the older ones. What would the lifespan of the new pipes be? Do they have a, sometimes manufacturers of pipes, they'll say like, hey, this pipe has a 10-year or 20-year, 30-year lifetime span.
So in some ways, it's the same answer, is that it would be park standard, and I'm not 100% familiar with the park standard, but I believe they use a metal of some kind of, it wouldn't be PVC. So I don't know what the warranty period is, but I think my general understanding with most of these projects is that you will get some kind of a metal pipe that would probably have a guaranteed lifespan of something like 10 years and an expected lifespan in the range of the 30 to 40 years that we're dealing with right now. So we would need to be back here again, in 30 or 40 years redoing them.
See you then.
You're on, and then we can go to John.
Yeah. Excuse me. Thanks, Ed. I'm just curious if I know this isn't your plan, but that under this first item, the $7.8 million item, there's several things listed here that are contributing to that cost. Do you know which of these is the one that's really the cost driver? Because some of these feel actually quite minimal. So what, if you had to frame for us like what you think the actual cost driver of this project is, what would it be? I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't have the line item detail from the Parks Department, so I can't tell you.
Right.
I'm just putting on my hat from previous jobs where I've done some of these capital projects before. Let's see. So that you might imagine that did they mention design in here? No, so they might use in-house design. So I think you're going to look at paving is probably going to be the most expensive, and I think in particular the distinctive granite paving that's on the South Plaza is probably the biggest single item. But then you also have the tree protection and the mobilization of the contractor. I think the construction cost would be a significant portion of this, given all the stonework that's involved.
Okay, thank you.
Any follow-up? You're on? Or are you done? Okay, John?
Yeah, sorry if it's in the presentation, I can't see it. What's the projected, the best case, most likely case, and worst case scenario, how long it would take for this project to be completed? Not asking you when it will start, because we don't know that, but once it starts, what's the likely length of the project? Worst case scenario, best case scenario?
Again, it would be a Parks Department capital project, so I can't speak for the Parks Department for this project specifically. I can only tell you from experience on other similar projects that I've worked on, including I know Madison Square Park had a large paving project that was done in 2016, I think, and 17. They might do it, and I also don't know how they would phase it, right? So they might do it in phases, so you don't end up having to close off the entirety of all the park and all the pathways at once. But my guess is that the best case scenario would be in a 1 to 2 years, and the worst case scenario, if there's a long design process, or if there's a material lag, or if they end up having to do it in many small phases for some reason, I think, you would say from the time that the project is awarded to the time that it's done, you would hope it would be done in 5 years. This isn't one of those park projects where you have to like completely redesign the entire park. I think a lot of this might be able to be done with contracts that the agency normally has in place, requirements contracts. Because we're talking about standard materials, hex paving, benches, fence piping. The granite work might be the part that takes longer, but I would think that they could do most of the kind of northern and central sections, in a shorter amount of time.
So is it fair to say then, you'd mentioned a worst case scenario, 5 years. Doing that, that would be a patchwork approach. So most of the park I presume most of the park would be available for public use.
Yeah, I can't really speculate. On the one hand, you want to be as minimally disruptive as possible. On the other hand, you don't want to have to remobilize a contractor multiple times because each time you do that, you add additional cost. In particular, the plumbing. So there might be some version where parts of the park might have like temporary paving on top of them. I'm not really sure how they would want to phase it.
Any other questions for Ed? Mike?
Yeah, and Ed, in one of your slides, you show a piecework of the flooding around the flag and the dumpster outside and the bike lane. Can you bring that up again please?
Are you seeing that?
No.
No?
There you go. Yeah, that's the one. Am I correct in surmising that this $8.4 million project takes only one of all of these maladies into focus? Just the
That's
flooding, while the bike lane is remaining flooded and the dumpsters are scattered around and all of that other bad stuff is in existence, but just what you're showing on the green outline slide before this, that's the only thing that's being addressed here?
Correct. It is just a capital project to address the paving and infrastructure on the interior of the park.
So you just showed us the other slides for the next project, perhaps?
That's right. Sorry, there's more to come. And, frankly, this slide is really a slide that we're using when we're making asks for the larger amount of funding. Which if we were awarded this smaller amount and the larger amount at the same time, maybe these would become one big project. But as I said, strategically, this is one where we felt like we couldn't wait for other funding to happen that may or may not happen because this we felt in terms of capital cost was the most urgent.
Can I follow up? Last summer, Councilwoman Carlina Rivera, I think she's a councilwoman.
Yes.
She chaired a meeting down on the Union Square East with the Department of Transportation, Department of Sanitation. All kinds of people were there commenting about those other things that are amiss. And one of the things that they talked about was the proper size of garbage containers that should be placed around the perimeter of the park. That has nothing to do with your presentation today, is that correct?
That's right. I mean, at this point, those agencies are continuing to have conversations about potential relocation of the garbage pickup and using a different kind of, I guess it's carts today. They've been talking, the Parks Department and Sanitation have been talking about the use of piloting new waste containers, as the city's been doing that in other locations. The Parks Department has been scoping out different kinds of, let's call them dumpsters. They've been looking at, I think at that walkthrough, they talked about the potential for moving those to 17th Street. So DOT has been looking at potentially a redesign of 17th Street that could come with what the implementation of the kind of lower section of the Broadway Vision here, which we expect to also happen this year. So Parks and DOT and Sanitation have all been having ongoing conversations about, relocating that, potentially creating another area, using different dumpsters, but none of that would be capital work and is not related to this project.
Thank you.
Christopher.
Hi, Christopher DeZero. I was curious, what's more helpful to you as an organization? Do you want something from us that's very targeted just to this particular project, or do you want something like a larger context? Like, we like this project, but we would prefer that it be in a larger context of the visioning. I mean, one of the things that kind of gives me pause about this in general is that, as you said, it's going to cost more money to go back and put pavement in a second time. And a major part of your visioning includes the triangle to the east, and as Libby was saying earlier, the west side of the square. So, I mean, I'm all for this project the way it is now, but does it make sense for us to just focus on this project or to voice like, we would like this project in addition to what the other things we have seen?
Well, I mean, of course, it is at your discretion, but I think I think we are not necessarily at a point where we would be ready to come with a request for support for all the work in the vision plan, only because it's not designed, right? So the vision was like a pre-concept, and then we got a lot of feedback and responses. And I think the way it would probably end up being built might look different from the way it's designed. So I think that I'm not sure if you would really, I feel like I'm not sure if you would be in a position to support something that is, it was designed sort of with input, but it was meant to be like something to react to. And it's also, the vision plan is sort of very substantial with a lot of different moving pieces that really, quite honestly, require more study. There was part of the vision plan was exploring potential traffic closure on Union Square East. We never, funded a full-scale traffic study for that because we were waiting for congestion pricing to happen. And then I think there's a lot of different elements to it that probably need a little bit more conversation. So, I mean, that we would be, we could come back with a more detailed presentation on the overall plan, but we're trying to advance the pieces of it individually that we think are the most critical that kind of have to happen separately. So, that is the reason why we're coming tonight, just asking for the community board's support for this Parks Department funding request, because the Parks, again, this is the Parks Department wanting to, they don't have their own funding, their own capital plan budget to be able to put this in some kind of a pipeline. So they have to fund a lot of their projects based on, basically begging for the money. And so we want to help them get this funding for this park in our neighborhood. And, if this is the route that they want to go, I think we want to support that proposal.
Good question.
Yes, yeah, it does.
Other questions for Ed
In general?
in general? Go ahead.
I have questions about the two things. One is sort of the parts of the park that are constantly barricaded off with the bike racks. So like that, is it the Temperance Fountain?
Yep.
Christopher, the Temperance Fountain on the west side of the park. I know it's like winter now, so maybe that's like part of the reason it's closed off, but even in summer, it's rarely open. Even though if we need more seating and we have street furniture that can go there, I don't see a reason why it's not open. I've sat there maybe once in the 6 years that I've lived here, like directly in the park. And then the part around George Washington that I think is designed to prevent people from sitting there. But if this is included in like the paving, I feel like you should be able to sit there because people think that it's part of it. And it should be part of it. And then my other big, as I've said before, I think I've raised this at bid meetings too. The transit NYPD vehicles park in somewhat like multiplying numbers along the southeast part, right by that 15th Street entrance to the subway, in a way that it blocks a lot of like pedestrian traffic. They actually backed into that newsstand thing and broke it the other day. They've been blocking the entrance to the park along 15th Street too, that they park in between the two like walk signs. And then they also will park in the Triangle Park in front of the art. I know that the murals along 14th Street are technically like park land and now it's meant to be for walking. But I wondered if like that is street, like it just having cars inside of a very small park area doesn't make a lot of sense to me when there's streets that they can be parking on. And it was my understanding they're supposed to park along the street part of Union Square West. And they definitely have space there at times, and then they'll park on the sidewalk instead. But generally, I think even moving it beyond that makes more sense. But I was wondering what is happening with that.
Sure. Well, I'll answer the second part first, which is just that, we share your concern about the parking on the park. It's something that we've certainly communicated to the transit district, and we will get community complaints from time to time about it. And we send them to Transit District 4. Of course, their precinct is, located within the station. And so, to hear them describe it, they feel like, it's important for them to be able to get in and out of the station quickly when they have to respond. But, as to, why they couldn't park on different parts of the park, I know that, yeah, you're right. They do park on our mural sometimes, and they also do park on Union Square West sometimes. But it's sort of, all I can say is it's not really something that's in Union Square Partnership's control, and it is something that we've communicated to them before. And, we're happy to mention to them again that, we had a conversation tonight with the community board, and they expressed, frustration with the vehicle parking on the park sidewalk. I think that when we talked about, the bigger vision plan, we did try to, emphasize that Union Square East in particular does need, we believe, a holistic redesign. When you look at, not just the interaction of the bike lane with the trash, but I think the interaction of the bike lane with the traffic and with pedestrians, it's rather inelegant there. It's a confusing environment for bikes and for pedestrians. It's not traffic that really is very helpful to our neighborhood because, there's no stopping on this street here. There's just people who are going from somewhere north and somewhere south. And so, when you look at the combination of the bike lane, the trash, the vehicles parking, also the Union Square Holiday Market, which puts generators here when the holiday market is in place. I think all of this, needs some attention. And we've also been pushing the Parks Department very hard to try to get a tenant back into that kiosk. And they've been trying for 3 years. They're in an internal debate with the Department of Health, and they're about to actually rebid it out and try to get somebody else in there. So all I can say is that, we definitely hear you, and we'll communicate that ourselves to Transit District 4, and, I really invite you to do the same thing. When it comes to, sorry, what was the first question?
The parts of the park that are inaccessible for
The monument.
unclear reasons
Right.
around behind the George Washington and then
So-
the monument seating area.
I'll have to get back to you on the legacy of that. So, I joined the partnership in 2019, and so that was kind of an operating practice that had been in place when I came here. I can tell you instinctively that the barricades around George Washington statue are probably just to prevent what had an area that had started to attract a lot of negative activity. It's it's a design that's kind of closed off, and so I think it kind of became like a hangout. And I don't really know what precipitated the use of the barricades in particular, but that's certainly something I can ask about. And it's going to be pretty much the same story over on, if you can see my cursor, where the mother and child statue is. There's kind of this cut in. I think that's an area where, when it's unprogrammed, starts to attract people sleeping and hanging out because and doing drugs, because it's an area where you can kind of be out of the way and obscured by the monuments, so you can do various activities back there. It is open, so we leave that area barricaded off. It's opened when we have tables and chairs there, which is usually from May through the end of October. And the hours for the tables and chairs are, roughly about 11 a.m. And then we start to collect them around 6 p.m. Every day. So it is open throughout the warm weathers in the daytime only.
I just feel like that's like an insufficient duration of time, even like if it's that limited for the months. I feel like the hours that's open.
Speak a little louder.
I just like the hours of operation, like opening at 11 is like fairly late, especially on the days when like there is programming there. There's the farmer's market. Like during the day, like there's stands right there, and it's a nice place to like go grab a croissant and like sit with a cup of coffee, especially when there's such limited seating. That's also come up a lot in the vision plan within the park. These are just places that it's a public space and should be accessible.
It's a resource limitation for us to be able to open it, clean it, and provide tables and chairs. So that's the amount of staff that we're able to afford in terms of the seasonality of providing the movable seating. But certainly I could find out, if it can be opened when there's not seating there in other seasons. But I will want to know, what precipitated that closure in the first place.
Thank you.
So Ed, when are you gonna do the annual report to us? The annual programming, is that next month or?
What, is Josh still on? I don't know. I don't know
he
if
is
Josh
on.
asked you already, but I believe it should be next month.
So if you can, I mean, you can certainly get back to us beforehand, but if you wanna do a full report for the committee and for the public, I think for the benefit of the public as well. If you can include this on your report next month, that would be helpful. But of course, if you have a quick answer, definitely ping me and let me know and but we can have a more robust discussion at that committee level.
Absolutely.
Charles, did you have a question or a comment?
It's okay to give a quick comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I just think if the capital project goes ahead, hopefully it does. I just think it'd be a great opportunity to try to improve accessibility in the park, and I think it's really important to emphasize that parks should be accessible to all groups of people, especially people with mobility disabilities, and I just think it's really important to try to emphasize that to those who would be granting the go ahead to this project. I think it's really important to emphasize that the parks need to be inclusive for everyone and not be a barrier to those who don't have assistance or friends or family to go with to the park. So I think we should really try to make a difference for the common good and for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Sorry, Libby, I cut you off. Were you done or did you have any follow-up?
I think that for tonight in general, I appreciate your help with a lot of this stuff, Ed. I know it's a lot.
Sorry, I just had one more thing that I wanted to flag. From walking through the park the other day, there's a lot of salt accumulation there still. And I just think it's probably really bad for your pipes that you have a lot of salt, leaching into the soils right there and just kind of hanging around. I know we probably maybe only had 2 or 3 instances this entire winter where you'd even really need to put salt down. So the fact that so much salt is left accumulated in so many areas unevenly
accumulated.
Yeah, that is the problem, that there are still chunks of de-icing salt in the park even today, in the area that we are talking about, where we are saying we want money to be spent to update the pipes, but that aspect of maintenance has to be paid really close attention to, I think.
Yes, I will mention that and confer with Paul Evans, who was on earlier, as the district manager for the Parks Department. So again, this park, we're not like a full-fledged conservancy here, and so it is very much a joint operation between Union Square Partnership and the Parks Department. And so they are the ones who bring in the salt, by truck. And I think what they're looking at right now is this challenging time of year where you have the freeze thaw, where we have drainage problems, so you get standing water, and then the standing water freezes overnight. And then when it freezes, that ends up being it would be a failure on the parks inspection process if they have standing ice. So they for liability purposes or inspection purposes, they tend to overcompensate with more salt than is necessary. But I'll certainly talk to my team to see if we can get some of that collected.
Thank you. Thanks, Christopher. So I want to just bring it back to the question at hand, and I'll put it into business section. So how are we feeling about supporting this? Are we generally in agreement to support? Yeah. Okay. How do we feel, letter or resolution? There are pluses and minuses to both. A resolution, a letter can go into different details on different aspects. A resolution is voted on and hopefully approved by 45 members of the community board that we have now. So there's always 45 people standing behind it. The letter is a letter. It's a letter from, I think it winds up being from Nick and me, technically.
It's not from the whole.
We are on behalf of,
Okay.
yeah, and we signed on, it's a CB5 letterhead. How do we feel? You're on, you're on.
I was just gonna ask, just for clarification, were there members of the public that wanted to speak on this? Because I don't think we opened it to them.
Sorry, yes. Sorry, oh, Encore, sorry, Encore did not raise his hand. Sorry, Michael, sorry. Go ahead. Thank you, you're on. You didn't need to say.
Thank you very much. I think you can hear me. I represent the Friends of the Union Square Dog Run. I would like to hope and certainly ask that the committee support this request from the Union Square Partnership and the Parks Department. The dog run specifically has dealt with broken pipes, water pipes in past, and in fact has used private money to repair the water pipes in the park when they have broken in order to provide water for the dogs during the summer. We use private money. We use dog run. The people who use the dog run have donated their own money to fix the pipes in the park in order to enable to have water in the dog run. The dog run has been totally renovated according to the Union Square plan with the same kind of private money. We've repaired the drainage, we've repaired the sewers, we've repaired the water pipes, and we continue to repair the water pipes when they break. And I would hope that the committee would support this proposal so that the dog run owners don't have to continue to make the repairs to the water system when they do break. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. I think we still are supportive. I don't think that changes anything. Aaron.
Well, so I would support either a letter or resolution. What was the partnership looking for? I mean, what
Either
carries
one.
more weight on their side?
I asked either one, and I asked the community, I asked the borough president's office, and they did not respond. I asked twice if they had a preference. You're on.
I was just gonna propose, I mean, my instinct is like that it should be a letter. I think for a resolution, you know, it seems like it's a bit of a higher bar, and what we saw today was great, but what we saw today was $7.85 million next to a bunch of words, and I think we would need a little bit more, like if we were going to take it to the full board and be like, we're really behind this. I think we're behind the idea of this, and to me, that speaks more to a letter than to a resolution.
I'm fine with that. Are folks fine with the letter?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I can see there being some like broader discussion at the full board if on the issue of like the timing, and it's a little vague on how long it would take and the staging and phasing of it.
Details,
Yeah, like.
the parks
it could
design,
just-
the design parts of it.
Yeah, exactly. It could just sort of, I can see a conversation splintering potentially. So.
Libby.
I wondered also about, I'd mentioned presenting at the, to the city council, and I wondered if, do we send someone to do that?
I'm fine. I mean,
Does that
again,
change based on resolution or letter?
no, it could be either one because it's the resolution is the position board, so we could do that. But if we have a letter, we could do the letter into it. I think we've done that at land use, right? I think we've done that at land use that
Yes.
Land was gone in and read the letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can do that if you want to do it.
Love to do it.
Go, have a blast. Assuming it works for your schedule. I don't want to just assign it. Charles.
I don't know if it'd be possible to put in the letter, just saying that it'd be great if, the Parks Department definitely needs more funding from the budget. They get so little, and I think it's important to mention what a benefit parks are to the community. Therapeutically, and also with programming for members of the community. I don't know if we could mention something about the importance of parks and how it would be great if the Parks Department could have more funding from the council, whoever gives the budget. I do apologize.
Yeah.
I think that would be great if we could make that statement if possible.
I think we can certainly make a statement that we support the funding, full funding of parks. Just remember, Charles, from the operating standpoint, they don't get money from the city. This is a privately funded conservancy, so, a partnership rather. So we should absolutely say, I'm fine with it unless anybody objects, in the preamble, how much we support fully funding of parks and how important they are. Libby, who did I say? Libby and Christopher are gonna draft the letter. And I think that would be part of it, and I think that makes the total sense.
Yes, and can we mention about accessibility, about trying to, they said about repaving and everything. It'd be great if they could try to, I think it's important to go, if we could mention, if my fellow members don't mind saying, could we go beyond the minimum? It was mentioned, the ADA, and it was mentioned about minimums, but I think it'd be great if we could kind of go beyond the minimums and, go a bit, do a bit more than the bare minimum. Thank you.
Sure.
So I have questions about the like what with the letter, we write a letter and then we bring it back here and then you vote on it, or we vote on something now?
In terms of the details, what are we, there aren't, so the plan itself is fairly thin on exactly what the pavers, like it's just the last slide.
What
so
we're
it's sort of-
supporting is the money in concept. We can
It's a
even say.
conceptual ask.
It's conceptual, and we can even say, we don't have all of the details, but we approve it, and we agree,
With allocation of
with
funds
allocation.
generally as much as we can.
We will
possibly
take a
allocate
vote
to.
today to authorize a letter, and then we will bring it, I think the process, what do we do in Lutz, Aaron? We brought it to, we bring it to, when we do the letters in Lutz, did you do more letters? We didn't do letters of parks.
We don't have to bring it to full board.
Right, I think we just, we
made it as a sort of a committee report.
Right.
That we issued the letter.
Right, from the committee.
Yeah.
Because it's from the committee, it's not from the board.
When is the hearing?
When is the hearing yet? You're gonna tell me tomorrow.
Yeah, no. The Parks Committee, the Council Parks Committee budget hearing, Josh, I feel like it was the first week of April.
Okay. So, yeah, because it's coming from the committee, so as long as the committee is authorizing it, and then I will report to the board. I think that's how we've done it for lots. Is that right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, just if we're gonna be the two that are writing the letter, I have a lot of questions. So yeah, so I mean, I very much heard what Charles was saying about, including more than just bringing things up to standard, as he was saying, like we could probably say more about that. We do have the entire vision plan that we just saw, right? I mean, we saw it as a committee, they presented it to us as a committee. Obviously, they would like our support for the vision plan, but it's not the focus of the letter. But like, how much of the context are we going to provide? Are we gonna say, we support this project because it is a piece of a larger plan that we that we do support?
Also, what's like strategically the best way, if there's gonna be a
Well, we
risk
can't say-
on getting the money, what's the best way to get the money? Like, how much do we put in?
I don't know that we can say that we're supporting the vision plan. I think we do in concept, I think we do, but we've never, I don't know that we ever voted on vision plan, it was brought to us from like. So I think that what they're asking for and what we're supporting is this particular part of the vision plan, right? Because there is a vision plan. A lot of it is not completely fleshed out, like there's a concept of a vision plan, but as Ed has said, they're still working on designs and things like that.
Could we support the concept of the vision plan, like all 5 pieces of it?
I think that that's not what it's going to change, as he had said. I wouldn't go into the whole vision plan. I think that for the council hearing is, they're specifically talking about this allocation of
As
funds
capital improvement.
as a capital improvement. And I think we focus it on that. We can talk about accessibility as part of this, because this is part of it, but I wouldn't go too much into that concept.
But do we, because it,
I mean, could we say like we support it as a piece of a larger plan?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Sorry if I
That
wasn't
appears
clear.
good or something, but
Yes.
yeah, okay, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just,
Absolutely.
We can't
the focus is on the.
authorize the whole
Right, but it
vision
is,
plan
but
by
I,
ourselves.
No,
but I think this
nobody's
is,
asking
but this
you to do
is, yeah, but this is part of a bigger plan.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying it. We're supporting this as part of. a
As
bigger
part of
plan.
the bigger. plan.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, we want
100%.
more to be done, but
Yeah, and this is a good first step, or.
before a
or
giant
early
flood
step.
happens.
Okay.
Yeah. is there anything else that people want to see in a letter? Or like are uncomfortable putting in a letter?
You're on.
I was just gonna say, to Libby's question just now, I would recommend that we make the letter as targeted as possible. So happy to have people say that, but this is about flooding and pipes in the park and what we need to do to fix that. And I think the more focused we are on that, the more credibility we have. I think, as Christopher just said, I think we can put something at the end of like, and this is not enough, and there needs to be some more stuff. But I would really encourage us to make the focus of the letter about flooding in Union Square Park.
Anything else? So can we, I'm gonna ask
About a motion to,
Yeah, let's get a motion to authorize the committee to write a letter in support of this proposal.
I make that motion.
Second.
Great, Craig?
Yep. Yes.
Kim, yes. Is David still on?
Yes.
David?
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Libby?
Yes.
Michael Gibbon?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Christopher?
Yes.
You're on.
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And Michael Southworth?
Yes.
Anker's off.
Oh.
He's off. He's
Oh,
disconnected.
yeah.
Okay. Ed, thank you. We will be in touch with you. I'm sure Libby and Christopher will have questions as they're writing it. So you'll probably hear from them, or you'll hear from me, but probably from them. We're excited to support this. And hopefully it happens sooner rather than later.
Thank you, and
Some of
I'll
us-
see you, me or
some of us
our executive director, Julie, will see you in a month.
Right, yeah, some of us live near Union Square Park.
We live
don't
across
want
the street.
mess-
We'll see you.
Yeah,
We don't
well,
want to mess with one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's it for tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. It's fine.
Parliamentarian.
It's always in order.
Huh?
It's true. The motion to adjourn is always in order and takes precedent over almost anything else.
You're allowed to do that, huh?
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Do you see, Christopher,
That what?
Christopher, do you see activity in that area? 'Cause you live right by there.
You can probably see the park from our house.
That area
That's actually
that
has the
night
photos.
that they're saying activity, they don't.
No, because I'm on the other side. I'm on the
I
east side.
can't,
We're both
I
on the east
can't
side.
see it.
Oh, I thought you were in the west. Okay, I thought you were in the west.
No,
I
we're both on the
can't
east
see it from there. Well, it's really only that like fancy building with like the black frontage and like the
side.
Zephyr building.
That's like
Probably
$5
like
million.
three.
in the park.
And then like the Chase thing. The Chase has like a great roof thing that like they never use.
Wait, you mean?
The bank. Yeah, there's like a giant.
You mean
conference
coffee
table.
shop?
They have like.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't.
The
acknowledge-
sad.
I don't
You don't
acknowledge.
acknowledge.
I do not acknowledge Chase Bank.
I wish
so
there was a
sad.
sign that like was still coffee shop for
Very
it.
good.
That like it.
Yeah.
looked
Oh, yeah, please.
but they've got like space there. I can't see that area that they talk about.